Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I think we should get these motherfucking zombies off this motherfucking train.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Train to Busan, which came out in 2016 from director Sang Ho-yen. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Seok Woo and his daughter Suan, who are taking the train to Busan. Seok Woo is taking his daughter to see his ex-wife, but as they board the train, an infection spreads through the local population and rabid, infected humans board the train. It is now down to Seok Woo to try to protect his daughter as the world collapses around them.
This is one of those South Korean films that sort of went internationally very quickly.
Yes.
It actually broke several South Korean film records in terms of the amount of money that it made,
Yeah.
the amount of theaters that were showing it, the people that were going in to see it. And then, of course, word traveled fast and everybody was saying, you have to see Train to Busan. If you like zombie movies or if you like horror movies, you need to see Train to Busan because it's the best zombie movie ever made, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I haven't seen this much hype for a zombie movie since Wreck.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've seen as good a zombie movie since Wreck as Train to Busan is. It is a very well-made film for a budget. I think it worked out at almost $8 million US.
Right.
Which is a tiny budget in comparison, especially when you look at some of the effects and some of the camera work and some of the acting that goes on in the film. You'd think they would have been paid quite a bit more, would have cost quite a bit more.
Yeah.
So I went into this film knowing what it was about, but at the same time not really knowing exactly what I was going to get.
Yeah. I mean, I heard word about it, when it first dropped. And then, like Gary said, everybody got on board with it and they were like, oh my God, this is absolutely brilliant. Ian, you should see this film. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the greatest zombie movies from World War Z. And I wanted to slap people in the face and be like, get out of my fucking face. But I knew what I was getting. I mean, I love foreign horror movies. They really do it a lot better than some other countries that I can't say. But I knew what I was getting with this movie. And so I was just like, I'll wait. Yeah, I'm not in a rush. Everyone says it's good, so I'll wiki it. Yeah, I like that. I like that information. Yeah, okay, I'm good. I can just hold back. And then when we were requested it for the review, I was like, yes, finally I get to not only watch it, but I get to properly give it a good old sit down and watch through. And man, it starts so funny.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah, because it harkened back for me to say Brain Dead, Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, because and I only use it loosely because you get this guy driving his van up to this checkpoint and he's being decontaminated.
Right. Yeah.
There's been an accident at a local plant, and so he gets stopped at this checkpoint. And he argues with the guy at the checkpoint, I'm going to be fucking late. I've got this parcel to deliver. And the guy's like, yeah, go through. And you're thinking, oh, that's a big mistake. Why did you do that for? And he drives along and he hits something. Now, initially, I thought it was like, oh, this is where the infection starts. He's going to find somebody dead. It's going to bite him and everything's going to spread. But he sees that dead deer on the ground.
Yeah.
And like I said, it harkened back to me for Brain Dead, where it's like, oh, it's the monkey.
Zingaya.
Zingaya. This guy's going to get the bite. But he doesn't. He's like, oh man, it's my unlucky day. He gets in his van and he just drives off. And then you watch the deer get back up.
Yeah, and it's sort of jerky motion and its eyes have obviously gone really pale.
But it looks aware as well. It looks like it kind of knows that it needs to go off and spread this infection. And that's how the film starts. And I was like, oh, okay. That's a pretty good opening. We then cut to Gong Yu playing Seok Woo, the businessman father. Man, I really got behind the relationship between him and his daughter and his whole family element.
Yes, yeah. Now, during this setup, it would it would seem that he is a bit of a distant father. He obviously
Yeah.
doesn't spend that much time with his daughter. Him and his wife are now separated.
Yeah.
He's very much a work person. He is all about the company that he's working for.
Yeah.
He's one of the top. We're told that he's in funds management.
Yeah, he's a bloodsucker.
A bloodsucker, and so he is a suit.
Yeah.
And so, the love, he still definitely loves his daughter, but he's just not there for her.
But I could tell as well from the office stuff at the beginning that he was under a lot of stress. He was working to support his family.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Which is obviously, as a parent and family member, it's very difficult to balance that. You want the best for your family and to make as much money as you can to keep their future safe.
Right.
But then, they need you at home, and that means you got to take time off, and it's really difficult to balance it.
The scene is really highlighted because it's her birthday.
Yes.
And, she sat there and, he overhears her having a phone call to the mother, and she's like, all I want to do is come and spend my birthday with you, Mum.
Yeah.
And he overhears this on the phone because he knows he's going to work the next day, and he cannot let his daughter get on the train to Busan on her own.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I'm going to work. You're not going on the train. You're not seeing your mum. But I have got you your birthday present. I'm like, well, at least he got her something. He remembers it's her birthday.
Yeah.
But then when she opens it and, the look on her face is just like, you brought me a Wii. And the camera pans up across the room. And there's a Wii plugged in already. And it's just like, that's how much you don't know your daughter.
Exactly. I was like, did he buy that already for her? And
Right.
totally forgot that he'd already bought her it?
Probably bought it the year before.
Exactly. But it was the way that he's just like, well, I can change it for anything. And she just goes, I want to go see Mum.
Yeah. Can you change it for that?
Yeah, can you change it for the train? And what was even nicer was the mum stuff as well. Siek Woo's mum, she's having this conversation with him like, this is a really important time in the life for your daughter. You've got to be there. I know it's hard. She loves her son, but she loves her granddaughter even more. And so he's very conflicted, and he just goes, yep, fine. I'm going on the train. I'm getting on the train tomorrow. They get in the car and they're driving early morning, and you have that beautiful little moment where he's already seen his daughter try to sing a song at school, and she stopped halfway through. And so he's talking to her, he's trying to bond with her, and it's really nice that as the film progresses, they have more and more reconciling moments that you can really get behind the relationship.
Well, it's got to get worse before it can get better.
Yeah. But when that first line of fire trucks and police cars and ambulances all drive past, you're like, shit, something is kicking off down there.
In one of the shots, you can see a building on fire in the distance, and it's just like, okay, so is that where the outbreak has occurred, or it's, we know it's a zombie film, and we know it's the outbreak of a zombie epidemic.
Right, before we get too far into it, are they zombies? Because I am very...
A purist.
A
purist in me says they're not zombies, but it's a rage virus.
This film changed my view. My view's been slowly changing over the years when these films come out. That zombies are George A. Romero's. Anything that is similar or has the George A. Romero name on it is a zombie. To me, anything else that comes past that, if they are not similar to those types of creatures, they are infected.
Yeah.
They are just infected. And this is how I put these ones down. I call these just infected because...
28 days later style.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rage rabid virus,
Because of how quickly you become infected by being contaminated by a bite, scratch.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you are just... Your body just undergoes this complete change that you are throwing yourself at the people. They board the train at the station, and everybody gets in the seats, and I love the fact that there were so many people.
Yes.
There were so many characters that the camera focused on a couple to say, look, this teenager with his girlfriend, that's going to be kind of your little love interest. This dad and his daughter, that's your family interest. You got this businessman, Sang-hwa, played by Dong-seok, who's got his pregnant wife on board. There's your emergency family element that you can fall back on. Everybody else is fodder, and I'm like, well, maybe we won't see it. No, we fucking see it. But we see the first person run on board the train.
Just as the train doors are about to close, you just see that shadow run onto the train.
The conductor's turned his back on it.
Yeah.
And he turns back and he just carries on. And this woman's on board, but you can see that she's got a bite. So you're immediately like, shit, this is going to kick off. And then you see the conductor walk up to the stairs, doesn't he? And he sees like a commotion up there. But the train's already pulling out the station. So everything that's kicking off, we're leaving behind.
I love the shot where the dad and the daughter are there, and he's looking at something, and she's looking out the window, and the guy on the platform, he's just walking along, and you just see a shadow jump on him, and take him down, and she's looking back like, did anyone else see that?
Yeah,
and I'm like, no one's going to believe you, little girl. Anyway, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, that was it. It's like looking at her dad, like, Dad. But the train starts on its journey, and the infected girl ends up going into the toilet to deal with her wound. And you cut to a few other people on the train, and there's a COO, Dong-seok, who's trying to get into the toilet, and he grabs the attendant and says, "Look, somebody's been in there for absolutely ages." And you're thinking, oh, fuck.
Here we go.
He's going to open the door, and she's going to lunge out. It's all going to kick off. And they open the door, and they find a hobo in there.
Yeah, who's kind of lost his mind. You know, he talks about the dead or that they're coming back.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's seen something horrific and his mind is just gone. That or he's homeless and insane and crept on the train.
Yeah. But I love the fact that it established for the audience that this train is your set piece. There are more than one toilets. You know, there are more than one carriages. So, you know, it's such a beautifully designed set.
It is, and there's a great moment where we set up sort of the film's bad guy, and it's when the girl wants to get into the toilet.
Yeah,
and
Dong-seok, the COO, he's a dick.
Absolutely, and he's just like, make sure you go to school and do good grades, otherwise you'll end up like him. And she turns to him and says, my mum says that people that say things like that are the bad people.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh.
Well, yeah. Well, he says, well, your mum couldn't have studied that hard then.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, you fucking dick, you know?
Such a suit.
You start with thinking that the dad's a bit of a dick, but then you start to notice that there are other worse people on the train. But when that girl comes out and she gets overcome by the infection, and like Gary said, you see how devastating it is to the body and how quick it can turn. And this is what I've started to really love about the actors portraying the infected, was that it was like they were double jointed.
Yes,
you know,
like contortionists. You know, they could bend and twitch in horrible, positions.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's really good. I can get behind that, because it's now showing me that the person inside is completely gone.
But also, it looks like they have no real control over their limbs. It's just, their appetite, I guess, their drive to spread the virus. It just means that their body just needs to get where it needs to get to, and their arms and legs are just...
Yeah. When she jumps on that first attendant, I was kind of hoping that attendant was going to survive, but it's a zombie movie. We'd be lucky if anybody fucking survives. And when she jumps on the first one and walks into the baseball team, and the baseball team are like, what's going on?
And it's not until after she jumps off that person, then starts attacking some of the people in the baseball team.
Yeah.
And then they immediately become infected and start attacking more people. And you're like, because of how quickly the infection is spreading, that entire carriage is full of zombies. I'm just going to call them zombies.
But
it's full of zombies immediately. And, you can see people then just rushing through the carriages. And I was like, wow, this film's not wasting any time in getting to some kills and some action. I'm like, if this is all taking place on the train, it's going to be over pretty quickly unless they can deal with it.
Yeah, surprises are in store. But this is what I loved about the set as well, was that you could confine all these people into this one carriage, and where the survivors, the uninfected, are absolutely scared, terrified, and running down the pathways, the infected don't give a fuck. They will clamber over everything
over
to
the seats.
get you.
Yeah.
But this is where I started to see that they weren't really zombies. They were infected, because as soon as they lay a bite, and they bite somebody, it's like they carry on biting, but as soon as they kind of sense that person has turned, they're off and they're on to somebody else. And now that infected person is now doing it as... So it's...
That's what I was going to say about this film, and that is my biggest disappointment with the film. Being a big fan of the George A. Romero series of films, is that you have the social commentary and you have everything else, but you also get bucket loads of gore. You watch people get eaten.
Yeah.
And in this film, you watch a few times people get bitten. Other times, it is literally infected people on top of other people just shaking them, and their mouths are on their clothing, or and it's like, what are you doing? It just looks like you're gyrating on top of them. There is zero gore in this film. There is blood everywhere, and the blood at times looks off color. But there's no gore. There's no eating. There's just a very few bites,
and that's why I don't see them as zombies. A zombie eats the flesh of the living and will keep eating it even to the point that they turn, and then it will leave them. Where these bite,
infect, move on.
And that's how the virus spreads so fast. The carriages now are starting to get filled up with the infected, and the survivors are moving further and further up the train.
There's that shot where the dad and the daughter, he gets to them to safety, and he slams the door behind him
on Sang-hwa,
and he's looking at the other survivors, and he's just like, my daughter's safe, we're safe, you're not, sorry. And he's convinced eventually to open the door and let the other survivors through, and he tells him, he's like, what kind of douche are you to leave us behind?
They closed the door on the infected and realized that they couldn't. They didn't have the mental capacity to use the handle of the door. So the infected are just at the door trying to smash their way through it. They're not attempting to use the handle.
They can see them through the window.
They can see them through the window, and then when they blocked off the glass, it was just like, they just stopped. And I was just like,
the film does actually, I would consider it a partial plot hole, because they say that the zombies, when they can't see you, don't attack you. But they at one point they lock a zombie in the cubicle in the toilet, and it's raging to get out. And I'm like, but it can't see no one. So why isn't it gone?
But they can still hear. These infected can. You use the sound.
I was pretty sure, because the points, the infected, they can open the doors, but I'm pretty sure early in the film, a couple of them do open a door.
No, I'm pretty sure they smash pretty much all the way through most of the doors. But it was the fact that they just started, the pregnant lady, Seong Kyung, played by Young Yumi. Sorry, my Korean's not brilliant. Starts slapping paper up against the glass, and I was just like, why have I never thought of that before? I don't remember if they ever used it in The Walking Dead or any of the later George A. Romero movies, where it's just like, look, all the infected are out there. Let's just blind them. Let's just block all the doors and windows so that they cannot get agitated or excited to try to attack us. And these infected on this train, they just immediately just stop. And now they're just waiting, a little bit of noise, something to grab their attention, and then they're all on the move again.
무슨 관제실 타령이야 지금. 사람인지 뭔지 모를 것들이 미쳐서 날뛰고 있는데.
While all the survivors are on the train, they are using modern day technology to keep updated, and we can see all the news reports on the TVs that there's violence breaking out all over the cities and a lot of the provinces. It was really difficult for me to read, but I'm pretty sure people were on Facebook on their phones, but it was all in Korean, so I didn't know what any of the messages said. But I garnered that there was something kicking off that they were not liking.
Now, I don't want to bring in like the realism of the scenario, because there's a lot of them on phones. They're ringing each other. They're messaging. I'm like, I don't know really how well cell phone reception would work in an apocalyptic scenario like that. I don't know if if it would go down quickly, if there would be millions of people trying to use the phones at the same time, which would bring down the network.
Yeah, I mean, like
the fact that they're all already dead and there's not that many people left trying to communicate.
Yeah, but I love those little YouTube videos that they saw. Like you see some guys messing around on the skateboards. They look up, there's fucking helicopters with infected all over, and the infected start falling from the sky. We see the infected running across the street, and I'm like, man, that's really cool. I like those little bits. But it was when Seok Woo took the call from his mum.
Yeah. harsh.
Yeah, and she's literally telling him to look after his granddaughter and, to hope you're safe. And he's like, Mum, are you hurt? Oh, these bastards, yeah, they got me. And then you hear her turn over the phone. And it's like, fuck. So literally it's just him now, because his daughter is trying to ring her mum and she's getting nothing from her mum either. And you're like, literally it's just these two now.
엄마?
Like you said, he tried to lock the door on two survivors, and his daughter is constantly trying to help people.
Yes.
And she has that moment with her dad, like, he says to her, like, you got to look after yourself. And she goes, no, because that's what you do. You just care about yourself.
Yeah, well, it's the sequence when they're coming to the first station stop.
Yes.
The conductor tells everyone on the train, the authorities have told them, we're going to stop the train at this station and we're going to go out and there'll be some military to take us in.
Yeah.
And our main character, he gets on the phone, he calls someone up and they're like, look, when you get there, it's all going to be quarantined. I'm like, that sounds bad. That sounds like we're going to napalm and flamethrower the train.
That's what I thought.
So
Yeah.
he says, don't go that way. Take a left or a right turn and go somewhere else, and you and your daughter will be safe.
Yeah.
The homeless man, of course, listens in on this conversation and tries following them when they do stop the train and go out. Of course, everyone else is funneling through the station. It's empty. It's deserted.
It's not a good place.
Yeah, I'm like, even if the quarantine people were there, they would have been at the train already. Like,
Yeah.
Because of the amount of infected that are on it. So all the survivors are walking through the station. And this is another thing that annoyed me slightly. I mean, I am nitpicking.
Yeah.
But with these infected, they'll go from 0 to 11 in an instant. You will not hear them round the corner.
No.
But as soon as there is a horde, they're just there. They're silent until they're there. And that annoyed me a little bit. These zombies will literally just pop up out from nowhere from silence.
Well, I mean, like I said, we are big zombie fans. We have seen that a few times where the horde will just stand around completely silent and then all of a sudden they're just moving. But we're used to the slow moving ones, so we've got at least a chance. When those soldiers turn, that large group of soldiers turn, I looked at all the survivors on the stairs and I'm like, none of you are getting out of this. I love the little comedy elements in this film. They're few and far between, but some of them are just brilliant. Like, you see the dad and daughter walking down that corridor and they see a soldier and he's walking limping, asking for help, and then you see that infected fall on the floor as he comes around the corner and then run up and just leap on the guy, and I was like, that was brilliant.
Yeah, that was a good shot.
I thought that was
in
funny.
the trailer, I think.
And it's just all kicking off. Sang-hwa grabs his pregnant wife. He starts running back to the train. He manages to save Suwon at the same time, because you have that slow motion moment where the dad's running to her and the infected is running to her, and then Sang-hwa comes out of nowhere and just fucking punches it in the face, and I'm like, yes! This guy knows. He's just fucking going to lay into him.
But he gets into behind the glass doors himself.
Yes.
And now it's a role reversal.
Yes. It's chaos. It's anarchy. And I understand what you mean, that there wasn't gore, and if you're looking really, really past everything in the front of the camera, that you can see people just jostling in the background. But there is so much going on, so much action going on in this train sequence, that I was just like, I do not give a fuck. I can either look really, really far in the background and find something to nitpick, or I can just try to see who's going to survive this situation.
Yeah, just be invested in the moment and wondering whether the father is actually just going to get left and killed here.
Yeah.
Get a taste of his own medicine. But no, he is pulled through, and now they are holding back the glass doors.
Yeah.
Whilst all of the others get back onto the train, and it's not long before the conductor gets the train going.
Yeah, but it's the fact that half of the survivors have gotten back to the train and have gotten into a carriage which isn't infected. Some of the survivors
just ran
up,
into an infected
just
carriage.
opened the door, and now they've all been infected. I loved the glass smashing sequences. Now, World War Z was a terrible movie. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, we could do this all day if you want. But some of the horde moments in World War Z were just bad.
All CGI.
All CGI. this film, I was really trying to spot the CGI infected in the horde, because it's like what we said, when they're at that glass door and they're holding them back, all those extras are just smashing on the glass, and it's like, we need to go, and they run, and then just the kind of pressure on the glass just gives way. And I know that there's probably a couple of mannequins and some CGI underneath, but the ones that come behind falling on top of that, those are all actors, and then the ones on top of them,
Yeah.
I felt were
I would
actors
say
as
it's
well.
almost seamless. You know, it is uncanny valley. You do look at it and go, something wasn't quite right.
Yeah, but
that in of itself annoyed me enough to take me out of the film experience, because I was looking at it and going, "Oh, that was an effect." And I didn't want to see the effect. I just wanted to go, holy shit, that was a lot of zombies just broke through.
Yeah, but it was like that window part where they fall out of the tunnel on top of the train, and then you see that one fall off the top of the train. I know he was probably CGI when he fell out the window and then fell off the top of the carriage. But then when the camera cuts down to him and he's separated a group of survivors, it's an actor with his arm stuck behind his head.
Yeah,
you know, like he's broken his shoulder, and I'm like, I'm looking for it, but the film is like, don't look for it.
Well, it doesn't give you too long to dwell on it before the chase continues.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we get the two elderly sisters who have then been separated.
Yeah.
And you get half the group, Sang-hyu's wife and Suwon, the daughter, and the hobo have all been stuck in one end
Along
of the
with
carriage.
the baseball player and his girlfriend.
Well, no, the girlfriend, she...
Oh, no, she's in the other carriage.
She's in the other carriage with with a host of survivors, including the COO, who is just screaming that they need to get the train going. And then it's finally you get Seok-woo and the baseball player and Sang-hwa onto the train, and you've got now three groups who are separated.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the three main leads who are trying to get to their loved ones who are locked in a toilet surrounded by infected, who are trying to get to the survivors who have managed to secure themselves in an area. And you're like, well, how the fuck are you going to do this? And this is where Sang-hoo fucking just elevated himself up to fucking Ken Foree status in this infected movie for me, because he was just like, we're going to have to fight our way through.
내가 선두 가운데 너 그 뒤에 너
Yeah.
We're just going to do it, you know.
And that's one of the things that I do like about this film as well, is that there are no weapons of any kind really in this film. There is the baseball bat.
Yeah, but they're
There
with
is-
the team.
There is a riot shield that they pick up from one of the stations.
Oh, that bit where he's running for the train, and it's Sang-hoo's running for the train, and they're just like, come on, and he cuts off, and I'm like, where the fuck's he going? And he picks up a riot shield and a baton, and he tells Seok-woo to get out the way as a bunch of infected come past him. He just fucking clobbers that guy.
It goes right through him. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, traditionally in zombie movies, you think you're going to see headshots and guns and knives and all those sorts of things. But no, there's no handguns.
Yeah,
it's just what they've got around them to use.
That's why I put these down to infected as well, because I think they die. They don't need their brain destroyed.
We don't really see many of them die, because
No.
when they fight through the train, you know, we're seeing them. It's like wrestling. You know, he picks up the zombie and he smashes it at the top and throws it down. And I'm like, you don't. You know, the fight's carrying on. I'm like, I cannot see any infected or zombie bodies laying on the ground. None.
I knew he'd killed a few because there was a couple that he'd broken the necks of.
To me, it just seemed like he killed them and they just despawned. You know, they're just gone.
But I did notice that in the background, you know, some of them that they'd really heavily injured were now a lot slower.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm like, right, so injuries do make a difference to these things, and we don't necessarily know if destroying the brain stops them.
See,
but
it annoys me that they then decide that they've got to wait until it's when they realise when they're fighting them and they go through a tunnel and the
that's
zombies
brilliant.
stop.
Love that.
It is
Love
great,
that.
but I'm like, what are you doing?
Just keep killing them.
Keep killing them. They're like, no, let's get into the next carriage whilst they're looking around. And I'm like, you know, you have to come back this way. Why not thin out the numbers? I know it's a risk you're taking having to fight them, but it's a risk you're taking anyway.
But do you not also think that also plays to the human aspect? Because it's like the baseball bat kid. You know, he was hitting everything and saving everybody, and
He was reluctant to at first.
He was reluctant. You know, anybody would be in that situation as well. You know, he's trying to help, but then when he's seeing his friends die, and then they come across that carriage where all of his friends have turned, he freezes.
Yeah.
And it's a movie, and these guys are supposed to just be actors, but for me, it gave a bit of realism because you're like, about an hour ago, you're all having fun and laughing and joking, and now these things are trying to kill you.
Yeah.
You know, I might freeze in that situation.
You never know, because
you never know.
It's pure fear at that point. So they decide to hide, and it's when the father, he sort of gets on his Google app, you know, and he's just like, let's have a look at how many more train tunnels we're about to go through. Oh, we've got a big one coming up. And then, if things don't go right, we've got another smaller tunnel after that. And I'm like, okay. It's like you've been through no tunnels in the film until this point, and now all of a sudden the tunnels have just lined up perfectly for you to get there and back in time.
I forgot he'd studied the map of Korean railways, so he knew that the tunnels were out of place.
Well, it's just one of those things. It was just like, it's a bit.
Would you have preferred them not to go through tunnels and just fight their way through?
Oh no, I like that it happened. I just would have preferred them to have cleared the train out of zombies.
Yeah,
it really, really annoyed me that they didn't
just
use
kill
that opportunity to do it.
Yeah. I did love that camera shot. It took me back to Old Boy when the three of them start fighting through the carriageway and you get that brutal.
I mean, the way they built the set was, you know, green screens all the way down the side of the carriage.
Oh, nice.
So that it was projected, you know, background passing. But of course, with the actual set, you know, there would be no, on some of the shots, no side panels, so the camera could pan all the way down. And it's just, very well made.
Very well done. Seok-woo and his group finally get to his daughter, and now they are caught between two carriages filled with infected, and they use a tunnel distraction to climb aboard the baggage racks to sneak through. And like you said, that was a bit annoying for me because I'm just like, I don't know if the weight would hold, and you know that it's going to build up to a situation where, where the it's one of those things where the tension is building up. You can at least feel the tension in the air, so you know something is coming. Where, like Gary said, if they just fucking bashed the fucking heads in of them as they went, they might have been okay. But it's the fact that even in the tunnels, the slightest noise sets off all of the infected. So even if they had the advantage to start fighting, and they might have killed like one or two instantly when they were in the tunnel, it would have made noise and would have risked everybody else being attacked. But they get back to the carriage, which is filled with all the survivors, and the baseball kid's been trying to phone his girlfriend, and she is being held hostage by the other survivors because the COO has said to everybody, nope, they're infected, we're not letting them in. no, we do not let them in. And they've tied clothes or rags around the handle of the door and locked it. So when our group of main survivors get up there, they cannot get through. But
the zombies are also chasing them on the other carriage, so they're now split. One group trying to get into the other survivor carriage, and the others trying to hold the door against the outbreak.
And Seok-woo and Sang are holding the door, and Sang's just like, you need to go. You need to take my wife and get her out of here. And I did love their little relationship.
It's because he was bitten on the hand whilst trying to hold the door
closed.
He was bitten, and as soon as he was bitten, you as an audience are just like, fuck. It's like your favourite character right now.
Yeah, it's your favourite character. It's like watching Dawn of the Dead and Ken Foree just get shot. You know, you're like, God, fuck, damn it! It worked so well, their relationship. You know, he was always getting hit by her or getting the wrong look because he'd say something stupid, but you could tell that he really did love her, and she really loved him. And especially this last little moment where she's being pulled away by Seok-woo, and he shouts his daughter's name. That's what we're gonna name her. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And it's the way he starts fighting the infected at the door and picks one up and uses it as a barrier to hold back the other infected as he's slowly turning.
Yeah. And it buys them just enough time to get away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't really get away like that, do they? They smash through the door, and
They get into the other carriage.
They get into the other carriage, but then they have to lock one of the doors, and some of them get left outside. Like the elderly sister, she's left outside, and she gets injured.
Yeah.
Now all the non-main survivors are giving the main survivors all shit that they must be infected, and we're now going to separate you, and we're going to stick you in the vestibule. And I'm like, well, you're all fucking dead. I'd have stuck with those guys, because these guys are possibly going to make it. And you see the other elderly sister. She's a liability now.
Well, yeah, she's lost her best friend, her sister, it would seem. And she sees the zombified version of her up against the window. And she goes up to it, she puts her hand up on the glass, and you know what's coming. You know she's opening that door.
What was the name of that fucking dude from fucking Day of the Dead?
Miguel? And
Miguel, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's one of those where they're so depressed and so given up. It's like they don't want to run anymore. But at the same time, it's like, and fuck everyone else on the train with me.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, thanks, lady.
You see all the main survivors in the vestibule, and they're just watching through the fogged glass, people just being attacked.
Yeah.
And you just...
At the same time, I'm like, well, at least the CO guy is fucking dead now. He's not been an out-and-out asshole, but he has been very, he's been very much a douchebag.
Yeah.
Up until this point, I'm like, it's a shame because I really wanted to see him die, and now we just see the silhouettes banging up against the window. I was like, that's a shame. But at least now we're down to our last few survivors as they are trying to get to the next station.
Yeah. The conductor gets just to the station on the outside of Busan, and the train track is blocked. And so he tells everybody that they have to get off the train. And the survivors all hear this, and then we see that the COO and the last train attendant are stuck in the toilet.
Fuck's sake.
And that was the one I was like, motherfucker, that motherfucker's still alive.
But the fact that he was still alive could only mean one thing. He's not done being a douche.
He has got some of the most dickish parts in this movie, hasn't he? Because it's like, he's in this toilet with the train attendant, and he's been belittling this train attendant since the infection's kicked off. And now they're in the toilet, and he says to him, right, we're going to have to make a run for it. The train attendant's like, okay. The COO goes, you go first. And as soon as he puts his head out there, the COO fucking pushes him so that he distracts all the zombies and then just runs. And what's even fucking worse is that our main survivors are making their way along the train track to look for another train. And the train driver of KTX 101, the train to Busan, has found another train but has seen a flaming train coming towards them, which causes this massive train wreck. And our survivors are all separated now and are fucking in a dangerous situation because there's a carriage overturned and all the infected are inside it pressing against the glass, and the glass is going to break. But the fucking COO stumbles out of one train and lures a zombie to the baseball bat kid and his girlfriend, and she gets infected.
Yeah.
And you're like, you motherfucker! For fuck's sake, will you fucking die? Just stop killing people, because she turns and the boyfriend doesn't want to leave her, so she immediately attacks him. So they're
So they're
fucked.
both gone.
And
I'm like, that's 3 people this guy's just killed in the space of a minute.
Yeah, and he's about to kill a fourth, because as he's running towards the train that's being driven by our conductor, the conductor gets off the train to go help him. And the fucking COO fucking just leaves him to get taken down and jumps on the train himself. And I'm like, somebody kill this motherfucker!
It's like the film's biggest asshole right now is the only guy on the last train to Busan. And the film has been a running commentary on on humanity. It's like whether it's greed or selfishness or selflessness. It's like, what sort of person are you, and what sort of person are you in a crisis?
Yes.
And it's like, the asshole wins.
Yeah.
Well,
it was at this point I was starting to hate him more than I hated the infected.
well, yes, and that's what I like about the film, is it's like you can see these monsters and then go, but this person, this human being, is a worse monster than these monsters.
Yes. Seok-woo and his daughter, the hobo, and Sang-wo's pregnant wife are all trapped in this great crash set piece with the infected breaking against the glass. And Seok-woo finds a little hole to try and crawl out. But a piece of wreckage falls in front of it, and you have that brilliant moment where he just becomes like the Incredible Hulk. You know, he wants his daughter back. It's him and his daughter, and he's finally gotten with her now. They have this fucking relationship that he's not leaving her behind. So he's moving this God knows how heavy piece of wreckage out of the way by pure adrenaline and strength. But the infected have broken through the glass, and the hobo, who he'd been and I'd been unsure about his character throughout the film. I didn't know if he was going to be a douche. I didn't know if he was going to be a hero. He hadn't really helped. I mean, there was that one moment where he stood on the can in the carriage, and I immediately, as soon as he stood on the can, I went, "Oh fuck!" But he gives his life to protect Suwon and the pregnant mother. And he's just holding back the infected with a piece of bar.
Yeah,
know?
It's pretty sad, because he's done as good as he can to survive this long.
Yeah.
But just like previous characters, he self-sacrifices himself to let others get away.
Yeah, and I really like that. Really like that part. That it was just like we didn't know his backstory. We didn't know what kind of person he was going to be. Everyone seemed to be trying to help him all the time, and this was his moment to go. You know what? I'm not a complete asshole. I'll give my life. But it's when Seok-woo got everybody out, and all the infected crashed out of the carriage, and then the carriage fell over.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, everybody's got to be fucking dead underneath.
But no, because the zombies just springboard up over the top of the train immediately after.
Yeah, how fast can a pregnant woman run?
Well, when your life depends upon it,
Because
pretty fast.
yeah, because we watch our last 3 survivors running for the last train to Busan. And it was such a beautiful shot. Now, like I said, didn't like World War Z. And there was that shot in World War Z where you had all the infected running through the city, attacking everybody. And you had that overhead view of the camera. This film did it 10 times fucking better. Because I'm looking down at all of the people running after our survivors. And I'm like, I don't think one of them is CGI.
I couldn't tell. No, it did all look like extras running for that train. Yeah.
And there was a lot of them.
Yeah, it was scary how many are running. Now, the thing is, it goes from that great shot to, again, an effect that is obvious.
Right.
When all the zombies are piled on the back of the train.
Oh, yes,
There's like 4 of them holding the back of the train, which just causes this, I don't know, this carpet of zombies.
Yeah, they all just start clambering over each other.
But you can see that so many of them are just mannequins. They're part of this, like, safety mat underneath that all of the actual extras could be laying upon to crawl themselves up. And I like the idea of zombies being able to crawl over these other zombies that are holding on to get to attack them.
Yeah.
But I was like, for a few of the shots, I was just like, I don't know, I'd just like to have seen a bit more movement, considering how animated these zombies are. To see them so still is just a bit weird.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in realistic terms, everything else is real. You know, they're at a real train track. They're on a real train. All those stones on either side of the train track are real stones. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to go, we need you to run up and lie on the floor holding onto the back of the train, and we're just going to drag your face over rocks.
At 50 miles an hour.
At 50 miles an hour. Why? Because there's going to be some guy on YouTube who's going to pick at it and say he wants to see more animation. But they get on the train, and Seok-woo breaks the zombie train, shall we say, off the back of their train, and they get to the front of the carriage and find the COO has been infected, and he's slowly turning. And so you're like, finally, can somebody throw this motherfucker off the train? But they don't. They end up having to actually fight him.
They wait for him to turn.
I know.
That annoyed me, because I'm like, don't make me feel any sympathy for this asshole.
No,
Please don't. But it still does.
When he's afraid to die. I was just like, fuck you, man, fuck you. I know he was trying to get home, and he was only trying to think of himself and his own mother and stuff. But he had killed so many people along that way.
He inadvertently did it. I mean, or he didn't mean for other people to die.
No, he killed that conductor. He purposely threw that
Okay,
conductor.
no, you're right. He purposely killed that guy.
You know, and he purposely threw all the uninfected survivors out into the vestibule, and so obviously...
Yeah, I can understand that moment because that's the fear and panic. You don't know how this thing works, how this virus or infection works.
If he'd been a good guy, though, he'd have been paying more attention to the old lady.
Yeah.
You know?
Instead of worrying about himself and getting the train moving.
Himself, yeah.
But still, it then annoys me that we have this scuffle on the side of the train. I was like...
Filmed very well. I liked it.
It is filmed very well, but it just annoyed me. And I felt this ending was a little bit weak, especially when the dad is grappling with him, and then he puts his hand in the CEO's mouth to get bitten. And he holds it there for a while, and for a few shots, it looked like a fake rubbery hand in his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a small platform to be fighting on, and we don't exactly know how the virus changes the body of the person. Maybe it gives them 10 times more strength. Maybe it just makes them 10 times more aggressive. I'd hate to fight anybody who is 10 times more aggressive than a normal human person because they're just in a berserk mode.
But he fought so many of them on the train already. I can only put it down to him being absolutely exhausted at this point as to why he can't put up a fight. Or can't throw this guy off the train.
That's it as well. And he's just done that massive, huge run as well. And it was all building up to this big emotional ending because after finally throwing the COO off the train, Seok-woo knows that he's not going to survive very long and he needs to have his daughter protected. So he takes the pregnant lady and his daughter into the front of the train. I love the fact that he just looks at it and goes, right, that's the brakes, those are the throttle. That's all you need to know. And I'm like, wow, he can drive trains as well. That's fucking awesome. But he has that moment with his daughter and she's screaming at him not to go. And there was a part where I was like, I wish she would stop screaming. But then as a parent as well, I'm like, what if I had to leave Dylan in the arms of a stranger in the middle of an apocalyptic situation and I was going to have to go kill myself? And he knew I was going to have to kill myself. Is he going to stop crying after 5 minutes and be like, all fine? No, he is going to be in mourning for fucking... He's going to be scarred. He's going to be traumatized. So I just let that little girl, scream her fucking head off.
Oh, and her screams, man. I mean, she is the best actress in the whole film.
Yes.
She was really good from start to finish. You feel the emotion of the family's disconnect at the start. Her longing to go and be with her mother, who really wants to spend time with her. To her growing to understand her father's selfish ways and being able to show him an alternate path to, that even in the direst of things, helping other people can be so much better for you as a person.
Yeah.
Him learning that and then helping other people to then, to get to this moment, it is very, very well earned.
Yeah.
And her performance and her screaming, it's gonna get like 99% of the audience watching the film are gonna be in tears with her when this moment plays out. And it is beautiful when he stood at the end of the train and he has the memories of his daughter being born.
And he's turning at the same time, but he's still smiling because he's trying to still hold on to it. It took me back to that point where he got her to sit down on a seat. And she gave up her seat for one of the older sisters. And he says, well, why did you do that for? And she just looks up and she goes, well, Nana had bad knees. And he's already known that his mum is dead. And it's, like you said, he's learning now these lessons from his daughter.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that you didn't actually have to see him die, but you just saw that shadow.
The silhouette fall off the back of the train. Beautifully shot. I loved it.
Yeah.
Really did like that. That shot will stick with me for a little while after. Very good.
They carry on the train up to Busan, and they come across a
tunnel.
A blown up barrier in front of this tunnel where you can see some of the infected have tried to fight their way through, and they have to get off the train and walk through the tunnel. And as they're doing it, it cuts to a bunch of soldiers who are on the other side of the tunnel, and they've got guns, and they've been ordered to kill anything that comes through if you think it's infected. And you see the two shapes.
They're also given the order to kill even if they're not sure whether they're infected or not.
Which, as you see the shapes walking through the tunnel, we've already seen that in the darkness these things don't move aggressively. So you cannot see if these two are infected or not. And, it could be too late when the light finally gets on them.
but then the daughter starts singing the song that she couldn't finish because her dad wasn't present at the school performance of it. But now she's singing this song to completion for her deceased father.
Yeah.
And that is what tips the soldiers off that they are alive.
Uninfected, yeah.
And that's where the film ends.
Yeah, the soldiers run up and that was it.
Yeah. And we're led to believe that Busan is like one of the last areas to fall, that it is protected.
Yeah.
But then, we've seen films like 28 Days Later, and we know that the military can be pretty fucked up with Day of the Dead and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for all intents and purposes, for this narrative, our two survivors are safe.
Yes.
And that's fine. And this film is getting a sequel, actually.
And a remake.
It's getting an American remake, and it is getting an actual sequel. And I'm quite excited for the sequel, but did you know that this film also actually has a prequel?
Yes, an animated prequel.
It's
I
an
believe.
animated film it's a full-length animated film which chronicles the Station of Seoul.
Oh, right, okay.
And it shows you how the initial outbreak took place, and it follows a father trying to find his daughter, and it turns out that she was a prostitute. And I think it also follows the homeless man.
Oh.
And so you follow him before he gets to the train. Now, I haven't actually seen it yet, but now after watching Train to Busan, I want the sequel, and I want the prequel, and the American remake can just go over there.
Yeah.
Where remakes go to die.
I spoke to somebody who watched the animated prequel after they'd watched Train to Busan, and they said, it was really, really good. They really, really enjoyed it, and it was really nice that you already know that some of the characters aren't going to make it into the actual film, but it doesn't do anything more apart from expand the story for you. So if you're a fan of it, then you should check it out.
Now, there is a bit in the film when, our main character, the father figure, he rings up his company.
Oh, Analyst Kim, how did he survive so much?
Exactly, he's still alive by the end of the film, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's in the office, and he says to me, he's like, just to let you know that our company, your company, is responsible for the zombie outbreak. Bye. It's like,
well, yeah, it wasn't as nasty as that. I mean, Kim was very more emotional about it because he felt responsible for it.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, the dad tells him, no, it's not your fault, but then has the moment in the toilet, like,
it's his fault. Was it really his fault? It's like, we don't know what he did or what he had done to cause this virus outbreak.
Funded a company that made this chemical.
Because at the beginning, when he was in the office, there was all those dead fish, infected fish or something. And he was like, nope, cut all ties with it. We're not dealing with that anymore.
Wow.
So it's like, is that where it come from? Was it the water supply?
Yeah. I mean, we don't fully
Don't need to.
But, that was it. I've said it in a few other horror movie reviews that it does bug me if I don't know what's going on, the way the film tells us the story and we're just supposed to get it. I know some people might think that I need things explained to me, but I'm sorry, but sometimes I do. And this film did it very well by me sitting there going, oh, it's a chemical plant, it's already told me at the beginning that something's happened at a chemical plant. And as the film goes on, and then I find out that Seok-woo was the head of this company, the emotion from him really got me, and I felt bad for him, and it just made me relate a little bit more to the character. So it just really, really worked. And sometimes I do need a fucking explanation.
Well, Ian, favourite scenes for Train to Busan?
Oh man, I had so many. So bear with me. The moment at the beginning where he gave her a wee, and the camera panned up and she already had one, I was just like, oh man. It just really emphasized how distant he was from his daughter.
Yeah.
Like he had no clue. And it was that little part as well that he was listening to the phone call, and then when he asked her, like, oh, you didn't have to hang up on your mum, and the daughter goes, she already hung up. So the daughter was just talking to nobody. And I was just like, well, how distant is the mum from the daughter as well? It started to make me feel like, is this daughter now a pawn in this game? Who loves her more? I feel like the father does, because it's like Sang-ho says later on, dads always get the shit. We always get the shit. We work the hardest. We do everything that we can to help our families, and they don't realize until the end everything that we were doing. And I'm like, fucking yeah, man, it's fucking hard. The infected running up the train to get the father and daughter, the initial attack, You know, you had the camera just in the face of the infected as they're running up. You know, and just so many people behind them that you're like, oh my God, imagine being chased by that. It was really, really well done. It must have been so fun to be on that set that day. The helicopter and the YouTube videos, I just felt like they just expanded the world for us. So many times in horror movies where we're like, oh, we want to see the bigger picture. In this one, it gave us the bigger picture. So, you know, by the end of the movie, we've got 2 survivors and maybe a city. But that doesn't stop the millions of infected that are still probably out there. The moment the daughter and the dad were having their little moments, you know, when she says to him, Dad, you only care for yourself and that's why Mummy left. You know, because he's trying to pull her through the station to somewhere else because she wants to tell everybody to follow them. And he's like, no, you got to think for yourself. And she's like, that's why Mummy left. And then fucking boom, the first train station is just overrun with infected and it's just crazy anarchy. 3 guys against the horde, fighting their way up the train. You know, like I said, that first initial shot, like the corridor sequence from Old Boy was brilliant. I loved Sang-hwa just punching everything. I love the fact that they were wrapping stuff around their arms so that they could use their arms as defense. And then he takes off his jacket and he's a fucking beefhead. And he's just like, bang, bang, bang. And yeah, okay, it looks fake when he throws them up in the ceiling, but he threw a fucking infected into the ceiling. And my last favourite scene was just everything at the last train station. You know, the train crash, everything with the COO, even though he was a fucking dick. Like Gary said, made me hate him more than the other monsters.
Yeah.
The running for the train itself, getting on board, the dad being bitten, and then the emotional ending was just, yeah.
Yeah. You've literally named all my favourite scenes. You've named all the best sequences in the film. Yeah. It is very memorable. There's lots of great sequences in the film. And it's paced very, very well. There's only really one other thing that annoyed me with the film, and that was the soundtrack. I felt
Was there
like
a soundtrack?
Well, yeah, I mean,
there was haunting or ambient music, I remember. But
no, there's the action music, which is the same action music during every zombie virus chase moment. And also, you know, the sacrifices, the 3 different sacrifices on the train, you know, and then the homeless guy, and then him at the end. It's the same piece of music each time, and I was just like, for me, it was like seeing the Matrix Code. You know, it was like insert music to make you cry now, and it felt a little bit too forced. I was still affected by it. I was still upset by the film's ending, but the music was just a bit obtrusive, a bit too much so for my liking, and a bit overused where there were sequences where there was no music and you can hear the screams of the survivors and the growls of the infected, and the ambient sound effects was really, really good. So sound design, great, but the music sometimes just didn't quite sit right throughout the whole film.
Well, I mean, for this first time viewing it though,
Yes,
So,
I would like to watch it again.
Yeah.
And I will watch it again.
Because I was just thinking about other movie soundtracks, and it's like, you know, you've got that piece from 28 Days Later that sometimes I think is overused a little bit.
Yeah,
too
but
much.
but at least it's memorable. I couldn't even tell you. The thing with the Train to Busan, the music is not memorable at all.
But that's why we need to watch it again. So then maybe we'll pick it up a little bit more.
Maybe listen to it isolated.
Just the soundtrack itself.
Yeah. But with that being said, I do recommend Train to Busan. It's very well shot. There's some stunning camera work that gets you in the moment. It almost goes first person at times. Like I said, the soundtrack is serviceable, doesn't stand out too much, but the acting is great, especially the little girl. The film's not very gory, it is mostly just blood and a few bites, but the film is very, very tense. There's lots of action, and there's some very interesting character moments, and a satisfying ending. It is definitely one to watch for horror fans and zombie fans, even though the zombies run.
I definitely recommend Train to Busan. It's a fucking great horror movie. You know, be them zombies, be them infected, be them rabid, be them whatever, the extras playing the Horde were just fucking mesmerizing. Yeah, okay, it's very easy to say the characters were all very stereotypical. Yeah, well, what do you expect? You know, people with wings or fucking webbed toes? No, you're gonna have human element relationships. You know, pregnant wives, little girls. You know, it's we have said it a few times that when you have a kid in a horror movie, you know they're not going to die. That doesn't stop everybody else around them dying, which can traumatize you more than seeing a kid get torn apart. I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to do it anyway. I do believe that if you get a copy of Train to Busan, you're going to be on the right track. And I believe that the director for this film could have himself, in the future, a very good career. End it, Ian. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
뭐야 그 눈빛은? 말이 좀 멋있냐? 어?